friends and relatives, welcome to another episode of The Glorious Mess with your three favorite glorious messes just getting by, surviving this colonial project together.
Yeah.
The colonial project.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no better way to say it.
Surviving. Keyword surviving. Barely.
And this episode is super exciting because we're talking, I shouldn't say super exciting. I'm gaslighting
I think
myself
it's super
into joy.
exciting.
Okay, good. Okay.
It's an intriguing topic.
Yes.
There. It's an awe-inspiring conversation about navigating experiences in health. The health system is designed to be a safe refuge, a place to get healed and protection, but sometimes it also becomes a place of harm or limited ideas based on kind of small thinking. And sometimes it doesn't even have all the answers. And so in this episode, we're going to dive deep into some of our medical shit. And so, and hopefully by the end, as we get to share some of those real experiences, also get into some tips to help you as you navigate your different things that come up. And so I got a little question. I want to see how you're feeling today in this moment regarding your medical issues. Just dive right in.
It's a great day to talk about it. I literally just came from fucking physio. So I've just been dealing with medical all day long. I'm fucking exhausted. I mean, I'm not, my body's exhausted, and it takes a lot to get it not to be exhausted. And I find like going to all my appointments almost exhaust me more, which is hard.
Yeah.
What do you have?
I have really like sensitive tissue disorders, and so like all my joints are like really hypermobile, like which also just affects all of my connective tissue. So like that's also why my sinuses also get really fucked up, especially during allergy season. Like my body just does not know how to help itself, and like also like my iron, like my body doesn't want to absorb it, it doesn't like to take it in. So like it takes a lot for my body to actually receive what it's supposed to receive, and even then it's like a 50-50 shot. It's a lot of trial and error.
Do you remember, Brahman, when we first took iron supplements? We were in the island and we were like, whoa, we feel great. I have so much energy.
I was like, whoa, the star thing every time you stand up isn't normal for everybody else. Like I remember when I was 16, I was in contemporary class, and all of a sudden I was like going across the floor and I just whipped around and I was like, yo, does anyone see the gold fairy dust like falling? Like the glitter? And everyone just stared at me and I was like, no, it's everywhere. Like I just didn't. I'm like, yeah. Yep. So
it was about the iron deficiency.
So when you're low iron, and it's like the same thing, it's stars, like we're standing up really fast, lightheaded.
There's sometimes even like at celebs, like I mean, both of you will know what celebs looks like. For our audience, they won't know it's a club, but on what we call bottom stages, those little stairs, like sometimes even just going down those, like I've like finished and been like, I am
fancy.
Whoa. Okay, lightheaded.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean,
how's yours, Brahman?
Honestly,
in tune.
Okay, to be fair, as far as the chronic pain of my joints, so for those of you that don't know, I have psoriatic arthritis. And so it's been and I got diagnosed almost 3 years ago. And the first 2 years were me like trying to get back to baseline, or at least full mobility to be able to do what I was doing before. And I got there. And then in the last like 3 months, I've been really focusing on building muscle strength now to support. I'm also hypermobile. Don't have the same prob, but my knee joints and my elbow joints are hypermobile. So building muscles is actually really important. And I never took the time to do that, but I've actually been feeling really good. And then going to the gym regularly as a cross training with dancing, like my chronic pain joint wise has like pretty much, knock on wood, like disappeared. I feel probably just as healthy as I did before all of this. Now the chronic fatigue and my diet stuff and my inner organs are really still just as a struggle, but it's almost more manageable because my chronic pain's not so bad. But like the chronic fatigue is like pretty heavy still, and frustrating, like especially when I'm
Yeah.
like busy, like that's, and then combine that with ADHD. And so I'm trying to find this balance of like when I take my ADHD meds, which I did today, but I didn't take them for the last 5 days and I was a zombie. I was like sleeping 4 hours in the middle of the day. I maybe had like spoons to do one or two things. And then I took them
Yeah.
Gosh,
today and
tell
all of
me
a
I should
sudden,
really take my meds. I haven't taken them
yeah.
all week.
And then I took them today and I was like, oh my God, I have a personality. I'm like ready to do things. I'm really high energy. And I'm still trying to find that balance though, because part of me why I don't take them all the time is like I want to see what my actual baseline is. And with the Vyvanse, be Vyvanse, and I feel like it overrides my actual chronic fatigue. So then I'm actually working on empty, but I feel like I'm like, let's go.
Let's
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
But all in all, the fact that my pain's getting better, I'm starting to feel stronger, and I feel like I have it's back in my control a little bit.
Hmm.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
I love
No
it.
thanks to
Cautious.
anybody in the fucking medical system, though, by the way. Like,
And we will get into that. I'm excited. My health issues, but right now I think is mostly breathing. Like I posted the 3 A's, like anxiety, allergies, and asthma. And so I thank God Fred has asthma so that I have the red pump because like to get a red pump in Montreal, I can't, it's been a year and a half. I can't get a family doctor. So like, and then to get a walk-in clinic is, so it's been challenging to even get the things you need to take care of yourself to be at a baseline. But respiratory, like it gets those physical discomfort in the chest tightness, and then I get like anxious about that, and I'm like, oh, I'm losing my breath. This is the end. This is the end. And so
Yeah.
it's been uncomfortable and then harder to navigate because I feel sometimes like I don't know where to go in this city. Like if I'm in Vancouver, I know where my doctor is. I know where to go. Calgary, I know where to go. But in Montreal, I'm like, I know where to go, but will you speak English and will I be able to understand and communicate what's going on for me? And that I think is a scary kind of thing. And I think it transitions us well into like this first question of like, what have been some of the most significant barriers you faced in managing your medical issues?
Honestly, I mine will be short and sweet, trial and error. So the I have been really blessed with having a family doctor quite early on in my life because my body
Mhm.
kind of started to fall apart quite early on in my life. So, doctors, appointments, blood tests, all of those, like that has been most of my life since I've been in grade 10 of like every 3 months going to get the visits and like not to get a checkup, but like a checkup because I need to get a checkup so that I know where I'm at because my body will tank if I don't,
Mhm.
but my body doesn't like to do what it's supposed to do. So like there's a lot of times where like even one time where like my calf like rigid up and like swelled up so bad that everybody was worried about a blood clot. And so we did all the things, all the tests, and she was like, I can't let you leave out of this hospital without giving you at least a little bit of blood thinners because I can't let you leave like that. But nothing is
Mhm.
working, nothing is showing up on the scans. There's technically nothing wrong with you, but I can see,
Mhm.
feel that something is very fucking wrong, and she
Yeah.
gave me blood thinners and it went away. So it's like a lot of things where
Mhm.
like I'm going to do the things that I'm supposed to do, and my body is just like, sorry. And so then nobody can help me because they're like, I don't know how to help you. You have
Mhm.
technically nothing wrong on any scans, but I can see you and I can feel it. And I'm like, I can't, there's something wrong. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not help you. I
Look at my
don't know what to
fucking
do.
calf. Look at my calf.
Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah, I would say the most frustrating thing is one, just having an autoimmune disorder and how long it takes to get diagnosed with what's fucking wrong with you. Cliff Note version is like I started getting psoriasis in 2014. Didn't have a family doctor, went to a walk-in, they told me what it was. They did not share that it was an autoimmune disorder. They just were like, it's on your scalp, so no one can really see it. So just like keep an eye on it, but it's fine. Um, so there's a piece of me that's like, if I had known and was told that it was an autoimmune disorder then, and I started
Mhm.
doing everything that I'm doing now, you can't say what it should could have, but like I wonder if my autoimmune would have been silently progressing as much as it is. Like lots of the time psoriasis doesn't turn into psoriatic arthritis. It just is a skin autoimmune disorder. But 7% people have it turn into psoriatic arthritis.
Mm.
And only 2% get it this young. So I'm like,
Mm.
really, there's parts of me that I'm always like, well, fuck, if I had known, I would have just stopped eating dairy like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe I could have prevented it. But then now it's been a challenge of advocating for myself with my profession and getting taken seriously, like as a dancer and as somebody that's a mover. Like I do know my body very well. I'm whether it's
Hmm.
from a medical lens, but I'm very aware of what's going on in my body. I'm aware what soreness feels like versus autoimmune soreness. And then
Hmm.
also like trying to get healthcare professionals to understand, like when my knee first blew up, I think it was undiagnosed for 6 months, and all of a sudden like MRI nothing, x-rays nothing, and I
Hmm.
and the amount of time, oh, like, oh, I got runner's knee. I don't run, first of all, and also like nothing's changed from what my physical activity does, but of course as soon as they hear dancer, they're like, oh well, you got to stop dancing. and then
That
now
part.
and then now, even now, it's still like me being, when they're like, oh, but your knee's not swollen. I was like, but my mobility is still shit, which means I still can't do my job. So for the last 2 years, I was like blue in the face. It was just like minimum mobility. Like I will not be 27 and be
Yeah.
hobbling around already and quitting my
Yeah.
profession. Like the amount of times I got told, like, just pivot. I'm like, first of all, the reason I'm in this profession is because there's nothing else. Like, no one is like, oh, okay, well, I
This
could be
isn't.
a lawyer or a dancer. I think I'll go dancer. Like, no, it's because my grades were shit. I always knew what I wanted to do from like kindergarten, like, which is
Yeah.
why I didn't care about school. So, like, it's not like I'm like, oh, I'll just pop on over to like my secret 9 to 5 life. Like, anyway, that would probably be the hardest and my social anxiety too. Like, this disorder really taught me the importance, like, of trusting your gut, even though
Yeah.
you have all these medical professionals being
Yeah.
like, no, you can't do this. Like, I was told to lie down and stop moving.
Yeah.
That
The
Uh,
was
amount of
the
times that
advice.
I've
And
been
soon as
told to
soon
like
as I
quit.
did that, I got way worse, way sicker so quickly.
hmm.
And then
Hmm.
I had to just take it. I was like, this doesn't feel right. My body's I don't understand. I've been living with this silently for like 5 years, not knowing what was going on and dancing. And as soon as I knew I was sick,
Hmm.
tanked. So I would say that's
And
it.
that's you bring up such an important part of like how the medical system fails people by like the things it doesn't fully understand. Like sometimes
Yeah.
the tests that we do, the blood work, it's all based on like what we know or what we think that we know. And so
Yes.
when we get into these like gray areas or these rare areas, it's like, oh, we don't actually know. And
Just
it's
lay
kind of
down.
yeah, just it's kind of scary too when you think about
Or
it
just
from
like
like
stop dancing.
yeah, like and look at like if you get HIV we were talking about earlier or like breast cancer, things that are very important to society get researched and get funded and then get services and then there's better experiences. But then things that aren't popular go people just suffer and that's like I think the scariest thing. Like is it actually about everyone having access to public health or is it like a popularity contest for whoever's got the most popular thickness of the day?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna just say no comment.
And
Yeah.
it's so scary. So then how do you like, I don't know. I and I'm gonna ask myself the question first. Like, how do I prioritize self-care while waiting for results or while going through these kind of challenges? And I think for me, it's been this week. It's been home renovations, as I was sharing. Like I have been because my dear Fred is away. I'm also alone in the house, and so it's very nice to be with myself for sure. But knowing that I'm just waiting on results from something unknown is also so scary. So in this moment, my self care strategy has been to just do what I can. So, for example, today I had a massive to do list and I had to chop a shit ton of it and just accept the feeling that I was feeling in the morning. And I did nothing until like 12. And then when I was able to find a little bit of courage, then I was did one thing. Um, and so that's here we are. We're doing this one thing, and maybe I'll do one more thing after. But like,
Yeah.
I just have, and it's changed throughout the day. Like even just today, it's like this up and down of energy, and I just have to accept it and honor it, even though I don't fucking want to.
I
Yeah.
mean that's been a huge thing for me this past 365 days, not just this 2024, of like because I've been living with this for so long and knowing the things that I have to do and when I don't upkeep and I don't, that I've just been, every time that I don't, I get pissed off with myself. And I've just
Mhm.
realized that some days I'm just gonna have to wake up and realize I can't beat this. I just have to live with it. And on the days that it's not happening, and trying to like beat myself into submission to get the things done because I have to or whatever isn't gonna work. I'm not gonna be successful. I'm still gonna not get the things done anyway. So like if I'm a zero today at this moment for an hour, maybe I'll wait till I have a spoon. And if it doesn't happen today, it doesn't happen today. It's just gotta
Mhm.
be what it is.
Mhm.
Yep. Giving yourself grace to meet yourself where you're at. And then there's
Yeah.
still
Mhm.
like there's still a fine balance with that too. Like I'm slowly learning, like same what you just said, Taylor, like trying not to, and this ties into our next episode, try not to shame myself for
Yeah.
not for like, and it always happens when I've had like a killer day and then I'm like,
Mhm.
fuck yeah, I'm in beast mode, like I feel so good. And because I feel so good, then I do everything like until I have no gas in the tank, and then I wake up the next day and I am negative
Done.
100, like
Yeah.
empty.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then I feel so discouraged because I felt
Mhm.
so good the day before, and I was like, oh my god, like I thought I was better, I thought I was doing the right
Yep.
thing, I'm still failing at this, like, and then your self-talk goes also because then you're tired, so then your mental health is
Yep.
worse. And so trying to like shift, and I always say this too, is like we still, society wise, like we still don't understand um the full power our brain has over our physical body. And
Mhm.
through this like healing for me too from this autoimmune is like soon as I was telling myself I have a disease, I have a disorder, it's like not curable, I'm always going to be like this, I got way
Mhm.
worse. And soon as I started to shift my mind frame about it, not saying that like just look at yourself in the mirror and say I don't have cancer, like I'm not saying that, but like but like
Why not?
but like showing compassion, like then I started speaking to my body like, what do you need from me today?
Yeah.
And like
Mhm.
reframing and like asking myself, like we are a team, psyche and
Mhm.
body, versus like dragging my body with me. I have to be like, okay, what, it's doing amazing things, it's keeping me
Yeah.
Mhm.
alive, it's getting me to be able to do this very taxing profession that I've been doing since I was a wee one, and like
Mhm.
still, and still now, and add aging, add diet, add not being able to afford to eat really clean in Vancouver because it sucks out here, add all these things, and then I'm
Mhm.
still talking to it like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you would
Yeah.
never, you have to think of it as like a friend of yours. And so now I've tried to just be like, okay, clearly I'm feeling heavy, I need
Mhm.
to do these three things.
Mhm.
What can I, and I kind of have three, I either go to cryo or cold plunge to kind of snap myself out of it, or I'll take a bath and have a really slow morning. I'll connect to the earth, like literally sometimes I'll just put a blanket outside on my deck and just like lay there and pray that things will
Mhm.
get better. but but some of those anchoring techniques, and sometimes I do those three things and I feel not a bit better, and
Mhm.
then sometimes it's like, and it makes a huge difference, and then other days it doesn't, and then at that point I'm like, well, I've tried, I've done my
Mhm.
best, and I just have to accept that I'm here today, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, and
Mhm.
it's also always gonna win. Like that's the thing that I've realized, that like I can't fight my body. I can try and drag it as much as I want to, being like, this is what we're doing. You better get on board. It's gonna win, no matter
Yeah.
what. So I might as well be like, all right, you speak first. Let me
Mhm.
listen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
My mom has this beautiful like yoga practice from this lady in the UK. Anyway, Salma Fabian, I believe her name is, but she's this beautiful accent, and I don't even do the yoga, but the things that she says throughout that. And one time she was like guiding you through the breath of this move, and she goes, "The body needs time." Like
Mm,
we're, and I just like that phrase has stuck with me
Yeah.
so much, where it's like you are wanting to do this goal, think about how
Mhm.
busy your body already is, just
facts.
like
Mhm.
keeping you alive. and
Mhm.
and so like you mentally, and as a society we've become like this, Your body
Yeah.
needs time to like catch up. Your body needs time to fully release. Your body needs time to reset. Your body needs time to wake up. And we don't give it the space to do that. So like
Mm.
the wind down, slowly getting up in the morning, like doing a little bit of like even a body scan before you get up, or like trying to just see where you're at, and like giving yourself the patience of, I just, that sentence is so simple, but when I heard
I
it,
love it.
I was
Yeah.
like
And
in
it's like,
it, and I just started to cry. I was like, oh my God, my body
Oh.
needs time. Because I was like trying to heal. I was like throwing everything at it. Like, really? Still?
yeah.
So
Well, and it's so funny is that we're so selective with that, because we think about it. I think about like, skincare routines where they're like, if you don't like wait 28 days before you like give yourself a full, like give your body a full cycle, wait till you see.
I'm
But
like
then
20
for things
minutes.
like this, we're like, snap, we like don't think of like our body needs time to wake up. Like we're
Yeah.
always like, I took so long, like we're always just trying to instant go, 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 go.
Yeah.
But then for certain things, we're like, we know to take time. We know it needs this. We know, people go to the gym. We know it takes time to see results and blah, blah, blah. Like we're so selective with that. But it's like,
Yeah.
that applies to everything.
Yeah.
Everything
And
your body needs time for.
And that's why I'm like, this is an important part of like anytime you get a diagnosis or you're told, this is a thing, this is a problem, it like becomes a part of your identity and it becomes only your responsibility. But we never check on
Ugh.
like, wait a minute, in what ways did this way we function in society actually contribute to this? Like, why do
Yeah.
we need to work 40-hour work weeks? Why are we so stressed all the time? And I think that like a part of healing is like trying to strike your own balance, but it's both like an individual experience, but like you as an individual exist in relationship to the things around you. And so when these structures that guide our lives, when you go to an appointment, you're like, hey, you have this. And then it's like, okay, here's some resources based on what we know. And then you're off. But it's like, again, you don't get that space to even like tell your story. Have you ever read your medical records? Like how doctors note? Did you ever get a chance to
no, I
know?
would
Ask
probably
your doc.
stop.
You can, because they write like a clinical narrative, kind of like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
what's important. Also, like protecting themselves legally. Like, if you ever go, we can talk about that later in tips. But
Yeah.
if you ever go to an emergency and they like you don't feel what they say resonates for you, tell them to put it in writing. And you best believe they're going to do more tests if they have any even potential. Because once it's in writing in this system, it is
Yeah.
fact, and they are then accountable to it. So
Yeah.
when a doctor writes, they write this like clinical story, or when you go in, you've got like what, 15 minutes with the doctor, if that,
If
and you
that.
have to like
Tell your
explain. So you
whole
don't
life
have,
story.
yeah, you don't get any time to tell, and it has to be your story. You end up going in and saying, well, I have this disorder, I have this identity, but all these labels that have been put on you, but you never get space and time to be like, okay, what is my experience of this chronic illness? Like what Bronwyn's disorder, autoimmune disorder, sorry, looks like is your own story. And if like
So
another person had
different
it,
person to
Yeah.
person, depending
yeah,
on where you're coming from, what your actual normal life is, and you just get put into these like little
And
slot
also your genetic history. Like
and
there's so many
genetic
things that make
history.
everything
And
makes
mm-hmm,
it so personal.
what's so interesting is like how I got asked more, just from using me as an example, I got asked more round scoped ideas. I went to a Chinese medicine doctor,
mm-hmm,
went to a naturopath. I went to a somatic massage therapist. I did
mm-hmm,
lymphatic massage. I did personal training. I did breath work. Tell me how all these things, all these people asked me for more information than any
mm-hmm,
doctor did.
yeah,
All my medical history, all my like, and they did more for me within, pulling from that, and like the questions that I was, I felt cared for more, I felt heard for more, I felt like I was being treated as like an individual versus
mm-hmm,
like symptoms match this diagnosis, on you
Yeah.
go. Like I had
yeah,
one yeah, like it's
Well,
just
because in things like those,
interesting.
there's no facts. Like it has to be personal.
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
It has to be
Yeah.
personal, because that's the only way it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like our Western medical system, because we have all the facts, we have all the science, we have all the
yeah.
things, that it's like,
Yeah.
it's like putting an equation together where you're like, all right, must be this. And you're like,
Yeah.
And you're
wait,
not a person
wait a
anymore.
minute.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a
You lose
Jane
your
Doe.
humanity.
Yes.
You're Jane Doe or John Smith.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And what are they? White names.
Yes. Yeah. Let's do
That.
that. Yeah.
There's not one,
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know,
and
black
then you
person
can't
named
even
John
like
Smith.
tap into like the whole like I mean, there's so many layers to that. First of all, there's like most medical studies have just been done on men, and then you
Yeah.
branch out that like most of those people are white, and then you go into so then there's just like even more like even
And within a certain age group.
certain age group.
Straight,
Yes.
straight.
Yeah.
Because think if you take it from this, and this is not a fact, but I'm sure if I worked hard enough, I could prove it. But like, who do you want society to prioritize living and surviving ailments?
A white
The
man.
white straight man.
Ooh.
So of course, all your data, who's going to fund it? The straight man. If a white straight man wants to survive forever, they're going to fund the shit out of anything, that comes their way. And that's the scary thing. And I took a class like last semester on like gender sexuality in like modern China. It was so interesting to me, and like this dominance of the US like medical system, and how they used like missionaries to go over and in kind of invent and this idea of like it's called like orientalism, or like the sick man in China. So when we look at like when SARS was happening or COVID-19, Asian people experienced a wealth of hate against them, and this is based on these kind of ways that Western United States went over to China, built these missionaries, built these churches, then built these educational institutions and told them kind of what is, and then they would translate that information back and view this culture as less than. So they would always discredit all of these kind of traditional Chinese medicine practices. And it's like, but these are really helpful. These can be really valuable. And if you guys work together, God forbid,
Together.
That's
Yes.
then you're going
that
to
part.
this way better world. But
It's
that
that
would mean
part.
that the West would have to give up its power, its dominance in the world, and it just isn't willing. And so
Because that would
again, who
mean
fucking suffer?
equality.
That
And
would
that
mean
would take
And
away
equality.
no,
the superior.
and that would
It
mean
just
we are rich. Everyone is rich in
it
abundance.
just
God forbid.
it
Yeah.
just makes me so like it's so logical. It makes so much sense to me. And like
Yeah,
and that's what makes it so infuriating. Is you're
yeah.
like "H- how are the people in charge the people in charge?" Like it's
Hmm.
like it's like you're like
Because, like, I
But
would like to know.
did you ever see that? What was that? It's like that. Maybe this isn't the best example, but that like Spider-Man of like them all pointing at each other, and it's like three
yes,
different Spider-Mans. But
yes.
I think the system at this point is so complex now that I don't even know if you could go to one person. Maybe
No.
there's like a couple of family bloodlines you could probably find who like. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a few, but generally speaking, it's so complex, and all of this written down legal frameworks, medical policy, procedure, it's all so complex that like no wonder you can't fucking government can't change anything in 4 years, because who has time in 4 years to change that, to learn and know? And then they've
Yeah.
made this complex federal, at least in Canada, we've got federal, provincial, municipal, and it's so messy and complex that
Yeah.
there's not even time for you to have
So
time to
much tape to
uncover
get through. But,
so
like,
much tape.
here's the plot twist. Do you ever think that maybe they keep it that way because then if they don't have time, then they don't really have to work on it?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
'Cause it's,
100%.
like, so much tape to get through. You're like, "Is it really worth it if I just keep all these layers?" By the time they get through actually making real action, they'll be
Other
tired. They
people
don't
are
even
gonna
wanna
be
do it
dead
anymore.
anyway.
Gonna be dead.
Exactly.
And that's like the scariest thing about the system, how it operates. And that's why I think the one beauty of the internet is it really did. And I think when we look back 100 years from now, like at this time, this will be pivotal moments of how societal transformation happens, because you can't hide it under the guise as it was before. It's
No.
we're too able to be open and find community and
And
say what
it's
we
too
need to say.
permanent.
And
It's
it's
too
too permanent. Yeah.
permanent. You say shit and, like, it might take people years, but best believe they'll be able to find
I'll
it at
find
some
it.
point.
You'll be canceled in 7 years from now.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Best
Just like
believe
our
it can be
has been
And it'll
canceled.
can
be a
be
beautiful 7 years.
can be a few years, but you still report.
Yeah.
Um,
That's all I'm saying.
but okay, now in terms of like your healing and experience, like is there any kind of unconventional. There's one you do, Brahman, that I don't really get it, but I want to know more about the cryo,
Oh,
right? Like just non-traditional
yeah, yeah.
cetirizine, whatever is.
It's great.
What
Um,
is it?
okay, so I'm gonna just tell you I have a mini documentary that my friend
Oh, I
Dave
like that.
you did it one, and he's been such a special. I'm a firm believer that I cross paths with people that I'm meant to cross paths with, and I was like in the pit of despair, and it was the night before my 27th 28th birthday, I think, and 27th, I think, yeah. Anyway, and I randomly just found this video of this guy being like, I have a autoimmune disorder or a chronic pain. It's 3 a.m. I'm up in the middle of the night, like basically was in a lot of pain. And there's just something about him that he was just so honest. And I was having such a hard time finding people that were as physically active as me with an autoimmune disorder. Like you go on
Mhm.
the internet and like this is I do want to preference that like this is not me shading those of you that like are sharing your struggles about your autoimmune, but it's just a bunch of sad fucking people in pain, all like talking
Yeah.
about it and living it. And it's
Yep.
like their autoimmune has become their identity. Like, and that's
Yeah.
it. It's them
And
like
that's it.
so. And I just anyway, long story long, I went randomly to this workshop he was holding. Then he started talking about Wim Hof and like breathing and the cold exposure. And at this point, I was like, I will try anything. And if this guy has had this autoimmune disorder, something different than I have, that's like fuses his spine together almost.
Hmm.
And like anyway, and he's still climbing up mountains and like cold dipping in like lakes. I was like, well,
He's
shit.
fucking active as fuck.
Yeah, like annoyingly so.
Okay.
Anyway, so I went and it was nice because no one knew who I was. It was a completely different community, but essentially what it is it's autoimmune disorders and nervous system regulation go hand in hand. It's basically your a lot of them stem from a place of you're in a state of fear or fight, and so your body just starts fighting its white blood cells, and so you're constantly in this, your body's attacking itself, is essentially what it is. But a lot of these come to are laid dormant in your genetics until you have like an umbrella of um prolonged nervous system height, like you're living in a state of like this for long periods. Trauma, essentially
Yeah.
trauma, drug use, lack of sleep. I'm like the perfect sauce
I was gonna say
to
I literally
create
was like, so
I've
this.
my
never done that.
entire fucking life.
Yeah, so there's actually the more research I done on this, there's lots of links to people that have autoimmune disorders that have a state of high conflict or trauma in their childhood home. And so that checks. And then obviously moving to Vancouver, and then we've all watched the Party Never Dies episodes. So
Yeah.
so it starts to, I was in a state of chaos. Anyway, the Wim Hof method is essentially breath work and cold exposure. So you're working on being able to widen your response of window of tolerance to stress.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
lots of us operate from this way that our window of tolerance is this small. So I'm constantly in a state of fight or flight. And my baseline probably wouldn't exist very often. And so Wim Hof is a method. It's a certain type of breath work circulation. You do that first. You don't necessarily have to do it in time, but it's like recommended. And then you'll go into cold exposure. And so the cold exposure I loved because it's so shit. It's like,
Hmm.
but it's such a competitive brain, like mind game with yourself, like to go in there and push through that feeling of like, to like deep breath, regulate your nervous system and find a state of calmness for like 2 minutes. I love it. It really started to reprogram my sense of control of
Hmm.
my body and of my nervous system. And anyway, but it still sucks and it's a lot of work to get down to the beach and do it all the time. And I ain't like Dave, and I'm not gonna go climb a mountain and like find a lake with a machete and like put a hole in it. I'm just not that kind of person. Know your strength.
But it
Know
is really
thyself.
good though.
So there's this great place called Vital Cryotherapy downtown in Vancouver. They also have one in Toronto. It's way more popular in the States. That's like the only two places that exist in Canada, actually. Um,
Wow.
and it's essentially the same idea, but it's only for 3 minutes. It's at a negative 150 degrees. You wear slippers, socks, and gloves. And the difference with cold exposure is it's like a wet cold, where this is almost feels like dry ice, and so it's still cold, but it's a different kind of cold. Um, and it's way colder, so it just shoots you up. And that's great for inflammation, chronic fatigue. It's less of a mental game, so I will say, like, if you're needing somebody that's more so
I
for
mean,
inflammation, joint pain, even like brain fog, chronic fatigue, that kind of thing, like cryotherapy is great. Recovering for healing injuries faster is also a great way. If you're wanting
Mm,
more of like a mental reclamation of control and power of your nervous system, then I would recommend doing like the breath work and cold exposure route.
mhm.
But those two things really, really changed my life around for this kind of thing as well. And just trying everything once. Like at this point,
Yeah.
I was like, my doctors were telling me that I would never dance again. They were trying to put me on these meds that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. This is a doctor that I never saw in real life, only talked to
Mhm.
me on the phone. I
Oh, yeah.
specifically said, I don't want to get put on any more pills. I want to try other modalities before I just become a pill junkie. And he's like, "Yep, I heard you." Next thing you know, I get a call from the medical being like, "We need to come in to get a credit card approval because they cost so much." Even after I had said no,
No.
he had signed me up for it, and they were asking to charge me. And I was
What in
like,
the pyramid scheme?
yeah.
literally, I thought it was a phone scam. And then so luckily I just found another rheumatologist. But so there's people out there. It's pharma, big pharma. Anyway, so
Well,
then I
Yeah,
someone
paid
indeed.
and I went to
someone
go
was
swim
telling
in the
me
lake instead. And I was
some
like, this is free.
someone told me that like for like art therapy, like for antiretroviral. Anyway, the therapy, like if you have HIV positive and you need to take the daily medicine, the cost is like 16,000 a month for these pills,
Yeah, that was
which
similar to
is
what everyone put me
wild.
on. Yeah.
But you don't, they covered, most often are
Yeah.
covered. I don't think that's for 100% of the time. So I want to recognize that. But
Yeah.
it's crazy how much medicine could be. And then I was like thinking
And
about
like,
like,
so you pay that or you have AIDS. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not,
yeah,
or
or you
sorry,
don't.
Yeah.
HIV. It's not like it's like,
No,
oh
it
no,
would become, yeah,
well, exactly. So it's like it's
it
not
would
like,
become AIDS.
yeah, it's not like, oh no, it's okay. I'll get the cheaper version. Like, no, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to fucking pay that.
Yeah, someone's gonna have to pay it.
Yeah.
And it all comes like that's why I'm excited to shout out my garden right now because obviously plants can hear you. I love you all, plants and vegetables. But like it's
Oh,
kind of
Plant
this
Daddy.
this guy Orlando Brown from remember from That's So Raven?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
He's
mm-hmm.
like wild online. Anyway, he I watched this one video of him just like freaking out and he's like, "Why the fuck do I have to pay for grapes that came from the ground?" And I was like, "Oh my god, you're
So
so
sad.
right." So it's like part of this like problems that public health is also solving are problems it created because of
100%.
how it like commodified the fucking how we produce fruits and it like
Yeah.
just took over control and like my god when we talk about like land back I'm like just like let people like the
Well,
traditional caretakers and I from the communities I've spoken to they will come and be like, let's all learn this together. Let's all work together because they're not situated on power. They're talking about community wellness and restoring balance on Mother Earth. So, like, let's do that. And let's go back to learning. Like, I'm learning so much about growing fucking vegetables. I didn't know shit. And like growing plants, even. Like, that's a first that I've had this many plants. Usually they all die. So these plants are thriving. I'm looking at you all. You're killing it. And so it's like, but we don't, again, you're so busy. You don't have time to like go back to that
keep
prevention
you
piece.
they keep you
Uh,
busy.
Yeah.
they keep you
Busy.
so busy, and then they
Wearing you
keep.
out.
Then you're going to pay into the food system. Like I don't. I used to always like make fun of my brother when he'd be a conspiracy theorist, but I'm like at that point where I'm like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just really critical, and until
Yes.
you can prove me otherwise, if your theories can be true, so can mine.
Yeah.
100%.
When you think about it, like this generation, people are like, why does everyone have ADHD? Why does everyone have anxiety? Why does everyone have depression? Why does
Diagnosed.
why does everyone, You know, why is there an uptick on how many people have autoimmune disorders, chronic illness, undiagnosed like gut health issues? It's because we're slowly being killed, not by like
Yeah.
one person, but the preservatives that are in our food, the way that we are trying to like mass populate and mass produce certain things, this fucking square in our pocket, social media, the internet, the like way that like everything is so fast, like being disconnected to the earth enough. And then there's this theory, not even theory, it's fucking science. I can't remember all the things. I will find the article, but there's this thing called grounding. And like literally, if you think about all of us are like energetically vibrating, and the only way to swipe, it's also like connected to some people call about cord cutting. Like after you've been in a big space with a lot of people, you actually, some people, especially if they're like, I don't want to say a channeler, but like they're open. If you know into human design, you're either a closed emotional loop, or you're an open one. And people that are open, energies actually pass through them, and so you can feel and hold on to other people's auras or frequencies or whatever. Oh my god, my dad's gonna listen to this and be like, she's officially gone. Anyway, but but there is this thing, the only thing, if you think about a battery, a negative and a positive, like how it'll cancel each other out, the earth and its frequency and its vibration of what it is also the only thing that can clear out all of our bullshit that gets put on us.
Mm.
And if you think about it, like wear shoes, we like always have things covering. And so like literally just go hug a tree, people. Lie in
Take
the
off your
grass,
clothes.
take off your clothes, put like naked yeah.
Just say that.
It'll be like a cover photo.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Naked feet on the naked feet. Yeah, that's a word.
Yes.
Naked feet on the ground, like, and just for like 20 seconds, even a minute, and just like make contact with the earth. I
Mother
swear.
Earth. We don't call her mother for
I
nothing.
removed Instagram off my phone for 2
How's
weeks.
that been going?
And I put it back on for my shows because I like to take photos of when I look cute. But before that, it was honestly my mental health and my anxiety and my self-worth like completely disappeared. Like I wasn't checking on what other people, I had all these creative ideas. My productivity, like the amount of times I just stop because I like check a DM and then all of a sudden I'm scrolling for 20 minutes and I just totally like crash, lose my like my vibe. So
And it's
then
gone. The thought's
it's
gone.
gone. And then I just really was like, oh my God, social media has been slowly killing me for a decade. Easy.
Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that was
All
a
of
tangent.
us.
But like health,
No,
that's
but it,
all connected.
this is the thing. And I think sometimes I'm like, when you think about the blip that our lifetime is, I'm also like, I don't know if it will kill the human species. Like, we're so resilient that I'm like, we're just going to evolve into different and new ways. Like, that's what's kind of interesting too. But like, unfortunately, we're going to be the guinea pigs. And I'm like,
Yes.
well, fuck, bring me back after the guinea pigs. Like, bring me back to the thriving era.
Yeah.
We're in the
Amazing. Well,
revolutionary era.
let's share some quick hot tips for folks navigating some medical concerns in their lives. Who's got a first hot tip?
Ask questions. I think that the biggest thing, especially when you're in the room, because we will all get it, like every time you step into that waiting room and you like forget how your brain works and you're all of a sudden like trying to and you just can't. But like asking most questions, like as many questions as you can, even if they feel dumb, and being like, okay, what are the side effects of that? Is there another option? Or like, okay, is there another version that does the same thing? Like, even if you're like, I'm on board with getting this pill or I'm on board with this method that you're giving me, but like, is there this version a different way? Is there another person to see? Is there another step? Is there, because like sometimes they also just don't know. And like sometimes there is, and it's just not common, or they just don't think it'll suit your case. And as we've learned from this podcast, everything's fucking personal. So like the more questions that you can ask, and also the more questions that like, 'cause sometimes the doctors will not, like I've asked so many questions to my doctor that like she wouldn't have thought of. But now that she has, she's like, please hold, let me get back to you on that. Let me send you an email back. That like sometimes they're also human and they've seen like 80 patients in one day about 80 different things, and sometimes they just forget. And so if you're
Yeah.
not on it of like being the pestering Karen who's just, what about this, what about this, what about this, what about this,
Yeah.
they will forget.
Yeah.
And then they won't actually be as helpful as you need them to be because they've checked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely find I actually did a great cohort of artists with invisible illnesses by Future Leisure. I will share who they are because they do some really great work in the city. But one thing that we talked about was like how can you advocate for yourself when you're in that 15-minute time slot? And sometimes honestly the people on the other side can be just awful, but you have to remember like they don't know everything. You do have you might know things more than them
Mm-hmm.
about your own personal experience, about your body. You are not crazy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
come in with a pre-written list of the things that you want to talk about, and even like do some pre-research if it's something that's happening like off and on before you go in. Track and see like, is there a pattern in your thing? So you kind of come in with some like ammo with like,
Yeah.
this is what I've noticed. This is something that's changed. This is something that does feel familiar. This is kind of when it started. And like, even if you don't have all that, start to maybe ask those questions yourself and like
Mm-hmm.
remember, and like if there's anything you might know better. And at the end of the day, they are
Mm-hmm.
also a person that has studied this is their profession, but they did not create it. And so
Mm-hmm.
they, and if that person said one thing, someone else might say something different, and like still keep fighting for what your gut is telling you. Now I do understand some of us are little hypochondriacs and get a little
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
have high anxiety or whatever, but like still having that list of things to ask when you go in there, to like keep it consistent, keep it straight to
Mm-hmm.
the point, keep it exact. But I always go back to
Also,
like,
your doctor will thank you.
yeah, your
Mm-hmm.
your body has the answers always,
Yep.
and you just need to unfortunately crack the code. But if you leave that appointment and you feel like it's not quite right, you're probably right. Like the
Yeah.
amount of times I almost got put on like some really severe depression meds because they said I had severe depression, and I was like, I'm not depressed. I'm pretty sure I have ADHD.
Yeah.
But and then as soon as he was talking about like how it's going to change the chemical balance of my brain, and I was like, okay, if I want to suddenly stop them, you have to wean off because your chemical
Yeah.
balance. And as soon as it said all that, I was like, I don't need that. That is
Yeah.
not. My whole body was like, whoa,
Nope.
absolutely not. I bought them. They sat
Yeah.
on my counter for 2 days, and then I threw them out because I was like, you know what? I just don't
No.
think that's it. And then same thing with some of the autoimmune meds that they put me on. And so I just think like intuition, give it some credit
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and write a
Give your
list.
body time.
Yes,
Give
Yeah.
your body
Give your body
time.
time. Get them to write it down. We're in
yeah,
this system
Yes.
for most of our lives. So get that shit in writing and see how that transforms your experience for sure, is my hot tip of the day before I pass it to Bronwyn to close us off.
yes. And if there's anything that you can take away from this episode, is that like, trust your power, trust that you are resilient, trust that your body, think about like the miracles that it does for you every single day, and like pour in that love and that compassion and that strength into it. It's like an amazing vessel that holds who you are during this lifetime. And so we need to treat it with patience and love. Treat it like how you would treat somebody that you love close to you, and even your brain too. Like, we gotta love on that a little bit. And you are resilient and you will find answers. Um, and just keep knocking on doors until you get them. And I know that that's a privilege to be able to do that. That's also, time consuming, but you know more than you think you do a lot of the time. And you just have to find the right person for you to be in your corner. And then once you find them, never let that person go till they
Facts.
quit,
Mm-hmm.
till they die. Like, I've over the last 3 years, I've slowly been building a list of people that
I've
I
just been chasing my
trust.
doctor. My doctor's moved clinics at least 4 times now, and she keeps being like, "Oh, well, we can transfer it." I was like, "No, no, 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 no.
I
Where?
will.
Just send me the address of where you're going next."
Yeah. Okay. And that brings us into our next episode. Speaking of body love and brain power and all that,
Ugh.
we're gonna talk about shame and how that affects each of us, honestly. That is
Yeah.
a big thing. And also how it infects you, how it infects the world around you, and just the human experience of feeling that and existing in that. It's going to be a juicy, juicy, heavy, but encouraging topic and an important one.
Love shame.
Yay.
Thank you so much for listening to us chat and talk shit. We're here all the time.
Yeah.
Would love to hear what you've been thinking about what we've been talking, giving us some more ideas for things. And the three of us will be doing one of these episodes all in the same house coming soon this summer, which is very exciting.
Yeah, that's gonna be fucking messy. I can't wait.
Yeah.
You love your three glorious messes.